This is the Weekly Roundup on the EAC News Channel, your look back at the week that was in the Kingdom of Wonder. A very good evening to you. My name is Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and we begin on Monday, the 13th of September. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi left Cambodia for Singapore on Monday morning after an extremely fruitful visit that lasted barely 22 hours. He landed at Phnom Penh International Airport at 11 a.m. on Sunday. By 9 a.m. on Monday, he was gone, but not before handing over a $150 million sports complex, confirming the donation of 3 million more doses of vaccine, and signing 6 new agreements with the kingdom, among them a $270 million grant. A working breakfast at his hotel was the final item on Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi's Cambodian itinerary. He held talks with Deputy Prime Minister Hau Nam Hong, who is co-chairman of the Cambodia-China Intergovernmental Coordinating Committee. He also met with Minister of Public Works and Transport Sun Chantol, Health Minister Mam Bun Heng, Commerce Minister Pan Sorasak, and Secretary of State at the Ministry of Economy and Finance Vongse Visot. They'll be managing the windfalls that have come from Wang Yi's visit. Those windfalls, in the form of 6 bilateral agreements, were signed at the Peace Palace on Sunday evening with Prime Minister Hun Sen. The 6 documents include a handover of humanitarian demining equipment for the Cambodian Mine Action and Victim Assistance Authority, an agreement on cooperation on supporting partner hospitals, a handover of equipment to combat the pandemic from the Chinese government, an agreement on cooperation on a $270 million economic and technical grant, a handover of a $2.5 million grant for demining, and an agreement on cooperation projects through the Mekong Lanchang Cooperation Special Fund. A little earlier on Sunday, Wang Yi paid an official courtesy call on the Prime Minister. He also held bilateral talks with his Cambodian counterpart Prak Sokhonn. But the headline event was undoubtedly the official handover of the Moradok Decho National Sports Complex, where the close relationship between Cambodia and China has been enshrined in concrete. The main stadium's 2 99-meter-tall prows symbolize the two countries, and the stadium's overall design, personally selected by Prime Minister Hun Sen, pays tribute to the historic relationship between the two nations, resembling an ancient Chinese sailing vessel. The sports complex is the largest gift China has ever given to another country. The Chinese Foreign Minister likened the friendship to a rose that has never stopped blooming.
Cambodia and China are both developing countries, and we are building for the community together. And China will help to develop in all fields in both countries. And China will help Cambodia by giving the people for better living, get more benefits for their family. And we hope that Cambodia will be more prosperous in the future.
The Prime Minister thanked China for the stadium, hailing it as a major benefit of the Belt and Road Initiative, as well as his win-win policy. He says the stadium will be a beacon for Cambodia's future. I asked the Cambodian SEA Games Organizing Committee chairman to invite foreign soccer teams to play or train here. And I ask all of our sportsmen and women who were trained by the Ministry of Education in their regions to come and hold competitions here in order to make this place a system for attracting tourism and development. The Prime Minister says a grand opening ceremony to which thousands of people will be invited will be held at the stadium as soon as it's safe to do so. There are just 2 days to go before secondary schools in the capital will reopen after an almost 7-month break. Schools, teachers and students are all getting ready, but safety against COVID-19 is being prioritized. School administrations in Phnom Penh have sanitized their campuses and are cleaning up. Teachers were also tested for COVID at the weekend, in line with the requirements set by the Ministry of Education. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has more.
Public and private schools are busy preparing in line with the requirements set by the Ministry of Education. They have to pass to be able to reopen on Wednesday, although private schools can make their own decision about exactly when. Most public schools from grade 7 to 12 in Phnom Penh will open on the date set by Governor Khong Sreng. Schools have been cleaning up and sanitizing for the past week. especially those schools that were used as quarantine or treatment centers for COVID-19 patients. While teachers say they're excited to get back to in-person learning, parents are equally excited.
I feel very happy because my kid will get to learn more than before. Every day my kid studies online. The problem for them is the internet. If they go back to school, they get to learn more and learn faster.
I am excited for my child to go back to school, and I hope this time they won't close the schools again. I also hope that the COVID-19 pandemic will end soon.
Beyond Phnom Penh, some other provinces are also reopening schools. One of them is Porsat Province. Provincial Education Department Director Lee Sokunthi says a total of 54 secondary and high schools will open on Wednesday. While in Kampong Cham, Provincial Governor Ung Chanda has announced that secondary level will reopen next Monday, 20 September, while primary level will reopen on Monday, 11 October. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
Now for a look at news making headlines around the world this Monday, the 13th of September.
An explosion which neighbors say felt like an earthquake rocked an apartment building in suburban Atlanta. It caused the three-story complex to partially collapse. 2 people are missing. 4 people have been injured. The Dunwoody Police Department says they received calls shortly before 1:30 on Sunday afternoon. The cause of the explosion is being investigated, but a local utility company reportedly received a call from a resident complaining about a strong smell of gas. The 4 people hospitalized are all in a stable condition, but 2 other people remain unaccounted for. They may well have been in one of 3 apartments that completely collapsed.
4 passengers have been killed in an airline crash landing in Siberia. The Russian-made L-410 aircraft was carrying 14 passengers and 2 crew when it attempted a hard landing 4 kilometers from its destination. According to preliminary reports by local emergency services, the plane reported equipment failure minutes before the crash landing. Rescue services had to free 11 people who were trapped inside the aircraft.
And several massive explosions were heard as a huge fire broke out in an industrial area in West Yorkshire in northern England. Residents reported hearing a loud bang which could be heard for kilometers. It sparked panic, with a building bursting into flames and sending a column of smoke into the sky. Fire and rescue services say everyone is accounted for. The explosions were apparently caused by gas cylinders.
Prime Minister Hun Sen, together with his wife Bunrani Hun Sen, received their booster shots on Tuesday morning. The Prime Minister took to Facebook to share the news, saying that booster shots have already been administered to almost 780,000 people. He says the royal government has decided to administer booster shots 4 to 6 months after initial vaccination. The Prime Minister shared pictures of the 3rd doses being administered by doctors at his home in Kandal. It is not known which vaccine was given to the Prime Minister and his wife, but they were originally vaccinated with AstraZeneca, suggesting they may have received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine as a booster shot. They are over 60 years old and outside the recommended age range for Sinovac or Sinopharm. The Prime Minister did announce on Sunday, though, that the 3 million additional doses of vaccines to be donated by China will be allotted for booster shots as the country works towards fully vaccinating 12 million citizens over the age of 12, with booster shots also allowed for. The kingdom only needs to secure a further 3 million doses of vaccine to have enough shots to meet that target. What looks like a vehicle from the Jetsons cartoon is now a Khmer reality. A passenger-carrying drone has been built by students from the National Polytechnic Institute of Cambodia, and it's been getting a lot of attention both on and off campus. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko went along to have a look for himself.
The future has come to Cambodia, and it comes from Cambodia. This 2.5-meter drone can fit 1 person and can fly for 10 minutes. It's a result of teamwork from both mechanical and electronic students, with 2 permanent students and 4 assistants helping with the welding and wiring. They say the drone took 1 year to build. We interviewed the 2 permanent students coordinating the experiment. Can you tell me, is it hard to control it?
It's easy, yes, for me.
For you, because you practice a lot, right?
Yeah. When I'm inside the drone, my feeling is excited.
Person of my weight, I have a little bit more than 60 kilograms. Can I go inside and pilot as well?
We testing for a lot of time. I mean, for 46 time. Yeah, and we see like we cannot put the load after 60 kilogram. So you cannot. And in the future, we can put after more than 60 kilogram.
The general mechanic of the invention, Troy Sutiera, told EAC News they had teacher supervision from the institute.
We have 2 teachers to help this project and support her. And one from electronic engineer, his name is Saran Srivatha, and one more teacher is Ho Sok On, he's from mechanical engineering.
Now, can you explain me better how it works the propellers of the drone, because they turn around very fast?
About our propeller is we sync it with the motor and we take it to part. First is the top part of motor, which is propeller, and second is under part. For the first part is top part. Our top motor is working by clockwise, and under part is working by counterclockwise.
Oh, I see. So the top part goes clockwise and the bottom part goes other side. The general mechanic shared his expectations for the new invention. He hopes that it can be used by firefighters and maybe one day as a passenger vehicle to ease traffic congestion. This invention behind me shows just how much potential Cambodian students have. It also demonstrates that everything is possible when teachers, students, and their institutions come together to build great things. Yuri Matosco, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
Now for a look at news making headlines around the world this Tuesday, the 14th of September.
2 fishing boats have been rescued by the Vietnamese Coast Guard in the wake of Tropical Storm Conson. The first vessel with 5 fishermen was rescued 45 kilometers off Lisun Islands after they went adrift from Da Nang. The other boat, with 13 crew aboard, was found 27 kilometers out to sea. All crew members were given first aid and tested for COVID-19 before their vessels were brought back to shore. Local authorities have warned that the risk of floods and landslides triggered by Conson remain high, even as the system weakened off the country's central coast. Heavy rain brought by the storm has killed at least 1 person, damaged dozens of homes, and flooded more than 1,000 hectares of rice fields.
Emergency services continue to battle flames as devastating wildfires flare up in Spain. The uncontrollable 6-day fire could be seen from kilometers away near the town of Bojera, where many residents have been evacuated. The Prime Minister has deployed the military emergency unit to help tackle the blaze. The fire has torched more than 6,000 hectares. 365 firefighters are on the front line, supported by 41 aircraft and 25 vehicles. At the same time, firefighting crews in Southern California are trying to contain a wildfire that broke out in the hills above Los Angeles County near a major freeway. The so-called root fire is burning along both sides of the Golden State 5 freeway. The Angeles National Forest says the fire is 0% contained. 2 firefighters have suffered serious burns. The cause of the fire has not been determined. California's latest bushfire came a day after Governor Gavin Newsom toured communities devastated by the state's raging wildfires. He says the record-breaking fire season should end all debate over climate change.
And protests in France against a new COVID-19 vaccine passport mandate have escalated. The health pass or a recent negative COVID test are required to enter cafes, restaurants, and many other public places. Protesters claim it amounts to discrimination towards unvaccinated citizens. The Interior Ministry says over 120,000 people had gone on the march across France, 19,000 of them in the capital, Paris, where police made 85 arrests.
A surprise announcement from the Prime Minister on Wednesday morning. Cambodia is to start vaccinating children between the ages of 6 and 12. The vaccination rollout starts on Friday morning at the Peace Palace, barely 6 weeks after vaccinations for children aged between 12 and 17 began. The Prime Minister says the decision to vaccinate children as young as 6 is aimed at getting them back to school as soon as possible. He says the next consideration will be to vaccinate children from the age of 3.
Prime Minister Hun Sen will kick off the next phase of child vaccinations on Friday morning. He says the first shots will go into young arms at the Peace Palace, and those children have already been invited. The kingdom has approximately 1.9 million children in the 6 to 12 age group. The Prime Minister has emphasized that the availability of COVID-19 vaccines is not an issue.
We have decided to vaccinate children from 6 to 12 years old. If we do not vaccinate these children from 6 to 12 years old, we will not be able to open primary schools because this age group are in primary schools and we have only opened secondary schools. It is so difficult. On the other hand, vaccines are being studied in many countries and they are already being given to children under the age of 12. Therefore, the vaccination is not really much of a concern. The decision to vaccinate this age group has been made, and we already have the vaccines in hand.
On Sunday, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi told the Prime Minister that the Chinese government will donate an additional 3 million doses of vaccines to Cambodia. On Monday, UNICEF Representative Foro Foyisat confirmed to EAC News that more vaccines are also coming through the COVAX initiative. As of 14 September, Cambodia has already fully vaccinated 71.81% of the kingdom's total population of 16 million.
After almost 7 months of closure, the capital's secondary schools started reopening on Wednesday morning. 68 public schools decided to reopen on Wednesday, having received permission from the Education Ministry to resume in-person learning. Their students all say they're glad to finally be back in class. EAC news reporter Reo Soko was at one of the capital's high schools on Wednesday morning.
As early as 6 a.m., they were waiting in line to enter Chia Sim Santhomuk High School. Vaccination cards were checked one by one. Temperatures were also taken, and masks were required. Hands were sprayed with sanitizer. They could then make their way to the class, where capacity has been capped at 15 students. Prior to class proper, teacher is explaining how students can protect themselves against COVID-19. Teachers and students all told EAC News how grateful they were to finally see each other after all this time.
The school reopening makes us teachers happy because we feel pity for the students in grade 9 to 12. They are graduating students. They don't really learn much from studying online. But now with face-to-face class, I believe this will motivate them to study harder.
I am happy because now I can meet my old friends and we are now back to studying physically.
I feel happy because I finally got to meet up with my teachers and my friends.
Teachers were all tested ahead of the reopening. According to Phnom Penh Capital Administration, just 24 teachers out of 10,419 were discovered to be COVID-19 positive. The Provincial Department of Education, Youth and Sports is cooperating with the capital's Department of Health to treat those teachers, although they are all asymptomatic. Although fearing COVID-19, students and teachers at the secondary level of public schools are all happy to see each other again face to face. Only a few of the students can be seen around, with only 15 allowed per classroom. This pared back in-person teaching is being implemented in 227 schools approved by Phnom Penh Capital Administration for reopening. Rhea Soko, EAC News, GSM Santomok High School, Phnom Penh.
On Sunday, Prime Minister Hun Sen described the recent US evacuation from Kabul as a bitter reminder of the events of April 1975 when the Khmer Rouge entered Phnom Penh. The Prime Minister was speaking at Think Tank 2022, hosted by the Universal Peace Foundation. Well, that US evacuation has now prompted a congressional investigation into the country's chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan amid calls for the resignation of US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He beat back criticism of the withdrawal on Monday during a testy congressional hearing. He blamed former President Donald Trump for negotiating the withdrawal agreement with the Taliban, but Republican lawmakers were having none of it. The House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee getting down to a hearing planned ever since the Taliban took back control of Afghanistan. Republicans wasted no time in grilling Secretary of State Antony Blinken, with Congressman Scott Perry asking him where he was.
Yes, I'm at the State Department.
Oh, couldn't be bothered to come down here and see Congress. All right, that's great. Hey,
Sir, excuse me, sir. My understanding is that the House is not in session, and that's why the session has been...
I'm right here, Secretary. Says the chairman, says the ranking member.
We're
here. Mr. Chairman, reclaiming my time. Did state at any point in the evacuation process block American citizens from leaving Afghanistan?
No, we did not.
None. Your testimony before Congress is that state didn't block any American citizens leaving Afghanistan.
To the contrary, my officers, men and women, ran into the building from around the world to help Americans get out.
It's a simple yes or no. I heard you do it with Mr. Connolly. You can do it with me. Yes or no? I just want to clarify. You didn't block anybody. State didn't block any American citizens.
No.
Okay.
They were there to help Americans get out.
How many Afghans not meeting the qualifications of SIV have been brought to the United States? Prior to, I want to know how many Afghan citizens came to the United States that had not met the qualifications for special immigrant visa?
We're in the process of
No. How
going
many?
through...
How many? How many did you bring? You were just at Dulles. How many did you bring?
We will have, by the end of the month, we will have brought a total of approximately 60,000.
That have not met the SIV process.
Some of those will have been through the SIV process. All of them, regardless of SIV status, will have gone through rigorous security checks.
It'd be nice if that was done before we brought these people to the United States of America.
SIV refers to the U.S. Special Immigration Visa for Afghans. There was another blasting of Blinken a few moments later from Republican Brian Mast of Florida.
I do not believe whatsoever what you're saying about the administration not working to manipulate that intelligence. To me, that is the most logical explanation of how so many in the intelligence community got this so wrong about what was going to happen in Afghanistan. Why it would seem somehow logical for President Biden to leave the, quote, most advanced military weaponry, why some would not speak out against that if they were getting the false intelligence because it was coming from the top down to manipulate it. In my opinion, that's absolutely aid and comfort to the enemy. I absolutely wonder if you were complicit in this as well. I find it hard to believe that President Biden would do that without you being aware of this. And these are things that we deserve to know better answers, have better hearings on this. I do not believe a word that you're saying on this.
Members of Congress went on to ask a long list of questions about the rapid collapse of the US-backed Afghan government and the Biden administration's scramble to evacuate 124,000 people, including Americans and Afghans who'd worked with them. The congressional hearing was prompted by scenes like this one. Shocking eyewitness video filming desperate civilians attempting to board a US Air Force plane as it prepared for takeoff. Moments later, those unable to get inside the plane could be seen falling from the sky. One of them was an 18-year-old member of the Afghan national football team. EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, please, please wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear. Parents have welcomed the news that their 6 to 11-year-old children are to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Prime Minister Hun Sen made the surprise announcement on Wednesday. This next phase of the kingdom's child vaccination program will start on Friday morning with an official kickoff at the Peace Palace, which EAC News will broadcast live. The Prime Minister says vaccinating 6 to 11-year-olds is aimed at getting primary schools reopened as soon as possible. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko hit the streets of Phnom Penh on Thursday to speak to parents and their young children.
From Friday, 1.8 million children between the ages of 6 and 11 will be vaccinated. The campaign makes Cambodia one of only 3 countries in the world vaccinating younger people, after China and Chile. Prime Minister Hun Sen posted an audio message on his Facebook page on Wednesday, declaring the decision was based on studies in many countries. He also said the kingdom has enough vaccines in hand to vaccinate the 1.8 million children in this age group. EAC News took to the streets to ask children if they were scared of needles.
I'm so happy I don't scary. I want to go to study.
I'm not scared. I'm happy to go back to school because I've missed my friends, my teachers, and I miss school.
The thought of going back to school makes me happy and excited. I'm happy to get vaccinated against COVID-19.
Parents told EAC News that they are just as pleased.
I feel happy that the government has launched a vaccination campaign for young children to let them go back to school. I want them to go back to school as normal because they haven't studied for a long time.
I am glad that the government has provided vaccines for children to let them go back to school. I am very happy to let my kids return to school because when they stay at home, they are always playing.
I'm excited to let my kids get vaccinated to protect them from COVID-19, especially the Delta variant. My kids were also very happy when they watched the announcement on TV. I'm very thankful to the Prime Minister for providing the vaccines for my children.
The Ministry of Health has already issued a list of vaccination sites. First shots will be administered from Friday until the 13th of October. Second doses will go into arms from the 8th of October. The birth certificate or passport must be presented in order to receive the jabs. The fear of the needle won't hold up the children's excitement to be finally back at school. They are one of the last groups of students that still needs to be vaccinated. The government says it now has plans to vaccinate children from 3 to 5 years old, but no start date of that phase of the kingdom's vaccination campaign has yet been given. Yuri Matosco, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
A SpaceX rocket blasted off from Florida in the early hours of Thursday morning, Cambodian time, carrying the world's first non-professional astronauts. They'll spend 3 days in orbit, and all they have to do is read the manual, with them having no specialized training at all. Resilience on the launch pad, the nickname for this particular SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule. Aboard, a billionaire e-commerce executive and 3 of his friends. The first all-civilian crew ever launched into Earth orbit. Liftoff came just after 6 a.m. Thursday morning, Cambodian time, from the famed Kennedy Space Center. A webcast of the flight shows 38-year-old Jared Isaacman and his crewmates, 51-year-old Cyan Proctor, 29-year-old Haley Arsenault, and 42-year-old Chris Sembrowski, strapped in wearing their helmeted black and white flight suits. The flight is the first crewed mission into orbit with no professional astronauts. All they need to do is read the manual and press the right buttons. After 3 days in orbit, they'll splash down in the Atlantic. It marks the debut of SpaceX owner Elon Musk's new orbital tourism business and puts him a huge leap ahead of his competitors who are currently offering only a few minutes in zero gravity. Now for a look at some other news making headlines around the world this Thursday, the 16th of September.
South Korea has successfully tested a submarine-launched ballistic missile conducted by the Agency for Defense Development. South Korean President Moon Jae-in and the country's defense minister were at on-site observation post. They say the missile launch was not a response to North Korea's latest one, but scheduled in accordance with South Korea's own missile capabilities reinforcement plan. The missile test came just hours after North Korea fired a pair of ballistic missiles off its east coast, breaching UN sanctions and ratcheting up tensions on the peninsula.
An executive Beechcraft King Air 360 turboprop has crashed in Brazil just 15 seconds after takeoff, killing 7 passengers, including one of the country's most well-known tycoons. Celso Silveira Melio Filho is a major shareholder in the energy conglomerate Cosan. Also aboard were his wife and 3 children. The pilot and co-pilot also lost their lives. The plane had only just taken off from the regional airport of Piracicaba and crashed into a wooded area adjacent to the São Paulo State Faculty of Technology. The cause of the accident is now under investigation. Another plane crash in Indonesia. This one, a small cargo plane which fell into a steep mountainous forest in Papua, killing all 3 crew members. Bad weather and the steep terrain has delayed the recovery of the victims. The Transportation Ministry says contact with the Twin Otter 300 was lost about 50 minutes after takeoff. The aircraft was reportedly having difficulty landing due to the bad weather. Indonesia has been hit by a string of transportation accidents in recent years, including plane crashes and ferry sinkings.
And 15 people are still missing after devastating floods in Turkey's Black Sea region. Footage shows just how widespread the flooding is. Almost 2,500 people have been evacuated. The area has been declared a disaster zone, which frees up government aid. The area was last hit by heavy rain in August. Those floods claimed at least 78 lives.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has launched the next phase of the kingdom's child vaccination campaign for children aged between 6 and 11. The official kickoff took place at the Peace Palace on Friday morning, with some of the Prime Minister's own grandchildren among the first to get their first jab.
Young relatives of the Prime Minister and government officials becoming the first children in Cambodia under 12 to receive their first dose of vaccine. There were some anxious looks, but no tears, as the first needles went into arms. The Prime Minister was on hand to reassure them and check that they were okay. He says deciding to vaccinate this age group was about more than just reopening primary schools.
They are still at the effort of our government in combating COVID-19 through a vaccine strategy to create a higher herd community that we have vaccinated around 80% of the total population. So every day, our immunity, if we vaccinate those who age about 12, there is only 75% of the herd community only. Even in within the family, there is no complete immunity as well, not let alone the community.
Cambodia joins only a handful of countries around the world vaccinating children under the age of 12. The Prime Minister says the next step will be vaccinating 3 to 5-year-olds, although no date has yet been set. But he did stress that everyone in Cambodia who has been or will be vaccinated will receive a third booster dose 4 to 6 months after initial vaccination.
Adults from 18 years old, will the government plan to provide 4 doses for them?
In reply to a question from EAC News, the Prime Minister said a 4th dose cannot be ruled out, but will depend on the COVID-19 situation and the effectiveness of vaccines.
A light at the end of a very long tunnel. Prime Minister Hun Sen used Friday morning's vaccination launch for children between the ages of 6 and 11 to declare that government is working on a strategy to reopen international tourism soon. Although no date has been announced, the kingdom's plan is already in place. Only 7 days of quarantine will be required, but it won't have to be spent in a stuffy hotel room. EAC News reporter Reo Soko explains.
The plan is for fully vaccinated tourists from low-risk countries. Quarantine will be reduced to 7 days, with foreign arrivals in Siem Reap and Sihanoukville being able to travel freely in and around those immediate areas.
They have to be quarantined for 7 days, but it's not in the room. You can go sightseeing at the place where you land. For example, in Siem Reap, we're not gonna quarantine them in the hotel room. We allow them to be quarantined within Siem Reap province. So we will draw the zone, the area for quarantine. They are quarantined, but they can go sightseeing, like they go see the temples, as well as for Sihanoukville. So when they arrive at Sihanoukville, they can quarantine, but they can go to the sea, they go to the islands.
After 7 days, the Prime Minister says they will be free to travel around the rest of the country. No immediate word in Phnom Penh, but details are expected to be released in the coming days. Only on Thursday did Minister of Tourism Thong Kun urge tourism businesses to start preparing for the reopening of tourism. It will begin domestically with Bichumben. Hotels, restaurants, resorts, and transportation businesses are required to follow standard operating procedures as set out by the government. The minister has emphasized that the reopening of tourism relies on people's cooperation. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
Well, now for a look at some news making headlines around the world this Friday, the 17th of September.
Media strongly condemns the beating and temporarily detention of journalist Patient Ligoji, who was covering a protest on Wednesday called by opposition leader Martin Fayulu, who claims he defeated President Felix Tshisekedi in 2018 elections. Some members of Congolese National Police assaulted the journalist and fired tear gas to disperse a handful of supporters of the opposition leader in the Congo's capital Kinshasa on Wednesday. Fayulu is seen as one of the main contenders against Tshisekedi in a likely presidential election in 2023. A government spokesman said in a statement that police had used excessive force and that an investigation would be launched.
Taiwan proposed on Thursday to extra defense spending of about $9 billion over the next 5 years, including on new missiles, cruise missiles, and warships, as it warned of an urgent need to upgrade weapons in the face of a severe threat from their giant neighbor China. President Tsai Ing-wen has made modernizing the country's armed forces a priority as Beijing ramps up military and diplomatic pressure against the island. The amount, which comes on top of planned military budget, will need to be approved by parliament, where Tsai's ruling party has a large majority. The new arms would all be made domestically, although the United States will remain an important part and technology provider.
And migrants, mostly Haitians, but also Cubans, Venezuelans, and Nicaraguans, were seen seeking asylum by crossing in knee-deep water of the Rio Grande along the US-Mexico border on Thursday. Thousands of migrants were waiting for processing their papers in an overwhelmed makeshift migrant camp under the bridge connecting Del Rio and Ciudad Acuna. Some of them slipped back into Mexico's Ciudad Acuna to buy food, water, and other essentials which they say they are not receiving on the American side. They could be stuck at the camp for up to 5 days. Authorities from Customs and Border Patrol say around 6,000 people were in the camp. This is one of the challenges facing President Joe Biden as border arrests hover around 20-year highs. U.S. authorities arrested more than 195,000 migrants at the Mexican border in August.
EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, 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 wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear. History was made at the US Open this weekend. For the first time in tennis history, a qualifier has won a Grand Slam tournament. Emma Raducanu has also become the first British woman to lift a major tennis trophy since Virginia Wade way back in 1977. Friends and fans of Britain's Emma Raducanu went bonkers in their local pub in her hometown of Beckenham as the final played itself out across 2 sets. It's been 44 years that Britain has been waiting for scenes like this.
I said earlier on if she was going to win, she was going to win straight sets. I mean, it's just a joke of an achievement for her. I think it was important she got it done in that second set. Fair play to her opponent. She was equally as unbelievable. But yeah, it's nuts.
Britain as a whole went pretty nuts, with everyone from Prime Minister Boris Johnson to the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, and even former tennis great Martina Navratilova taking to Twitter to congratulate the country's new tennis queen. 150th ranked Raducanu wasn't exactly expected to do all that well, but then again, neither was her 73rd ranked opponent, the first Grand Slam final ever to be contested by two unseeded players. EAC News spoke to former UK tennis pro Annabel Croft, who is now a presenter for Eurosport. I began by asking her for her reaction to the match.
Well, Andrew, it was an absolute fairy tale in New York for the last couple of weeks. I don't think anyone has seen anything quite like this breakthrough of this gorgeous British girl who came through 3 rounds of qualifying on top of the 7 matches that she won in a row in New York. She didn't drop a single set, and she quite literally blitzed all her opponents off the court. It's been absolutely incredible to watch.
Annabel, the reaction to this has just been incredible. What makes it so special?
I think one of the most impressive aspects of what she did, Andrew, was the fact that she kept walking out into the biggest tennis stadium in the world, the Arthur Ashe Stadium, and just seemed to embrace the occasion. She never looked nervous out there. She took her game to her opponents. She has beautiful techniques on the court. Nothing looks like it can go wrong. She never doubted herself. She doesn't hesitate. And she moves so beautifully around the court. She's got very light footwork. But I think more importantly, she's got real poise and composure. And she seems to play with a lovely smile on her face. And she just is a communicator. She communicates with the fans. I think the whole thing just came together in one perfect storm in New York over the last 2 weeks. She's been congratulated by the royals over here. The Queen has sent a message. I think the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have also sent messages. So she has really announced herself on the grandest of stages, and it really is honestly a fairy tale.
All the more remarkable was that Raducanu's march to the title required 10 matches, including 3 wins in the qualifying stage, and she did it all without dropping a single set. The new queen of tennis, 18-year-old Emma Raducanu, has it all to play for. Having stunned the sport by winning the US Open on Saturday, she's not just become the first qualifier ever to win a Grand Slam tournament, but also the first British woman to lift a major tennis trophy since Virginia Wade in 1977. While she settles down after a historic win at Flushing Meadows, she's finding the world at her feet. Holding her US trophy with pride, and rightly so, having just made tennis history. Emma Raducanu's astonishing US Open triumph could lead to a pot of gold worth over $25 million over the next 2 years, and that could be just the start. Her mixed Romanian-Chinese heritage and an engaging personality make her what those sports marketing people like to call brand gold.
I think what the actual victory does for her is actually takes her beyond tennis. A lucrative sponsorship deal she'll get just from being affiliated to tennis. So kit supplier deal, rackets deal, there'll be a trainer supplier, all of those sorts of things will come naturally. But what her profile gives her now is a sort of spot beyond tennis. It's, there's going to be a luxury car partner. There's going to be a fashion brand that's going to be interested. There's probably a perfume line that's going to be interested. And so you've already sort of building up that sort of commercial footprint way beyond merely sport.
If she can make this Grand Slam the first of several, then she has, as you say, no limit in terms of how much she can achieve off the court. She's going to be hugely in demand already, but I think to sort of follow that up with sustained and continued success in the majors in tennis, we'll see her rapidly become one of the most marketable athletes on the planet.
Raducanu is already a cover girl for British Vogue's October edition, and major global brands representing everything from fashion to cars and jewellery will be queuing at the doors of her management company IMG. With its global reach and exposure, tennis offers a road to riches for top female players. Of the world's 10 highest paid sportswomen, 9 play tennis. The UEFA Champions League is now underway, and there were mixed fortunes for 2 of Europe's top clubs on Tuesday night. Bayern Munich thumped Barcelona, but Manchester United were surprised by Bern's young boys. In Barcelona, Bayern Munich's top goal scorer, Robert Lewandowski, didn't disappoint. He netted 2 of Bayern's 3 goals, with the other coming from Thomas Müller. It was what sports writers are calling a brutal demonstration of the gulf in class between the two sides. Barcelona have brushed it all off, vowing to do better next time. Man United are also going to have to do better next time after losing 2-1 to the Young Boys. Discipline let them down in Bern, with Aaron Wan-Bissaka earning himself a red card. The coach wasn't too impressed with his team's performance.
Well, it's in football in general. It's not just in Champions League. Discipline is a huge part of the game, and Aaron's normally a very, very astute tackler. He's one of the best in the world. So we know we've given ourselves a more difficult task than what we did last year, but everyone thought we were through after 2 games last year. You need 10, maybe 12 points. You need to win your home games, win 1 away from home. And of course, we've lost an opportunity to get 3 points, but we've got 2 home games next, and we're going to focus on them too.
Man United fans did have something to celebrate, though. Their prodigal son, Cristiano Ronaldo, scoring their only goal of the night. It was a good night for Liverpool and Real Madrid. Both clubs notched up a win to go top of their groups in the opening round of the UEFA Champions League. Liverpool particularly had a good night, with their manager going as far as saying they got carried away. It was a topsy-turvy outing for Liverpool at Anfield, hosting AC Milan. With fans inside the stadium for a Champions League match for the first time in 18 months, Liverpool began in electrifying fashion with 13 attempts at goal in the first 15 minutes, and eventually went ahead thanks to an own goal by Fikayo Tomori. The scoreboard then flip-flopped for the rest of the 90 minutes, with Liverpool eventually edging out their visitors 3-2.
Yeah, nearly 100%, of course, because it was a brilliant game, very exciting, I think very entertaining, with 10-15 minutes where we lost a little bit the plot, whatever, were not compact enough anymore. It got carried away with our own football pretty much, made it then complicated, which we shouldn't have done in own possession. And last line slightly too deep, midfield didn't closing the gaps anymore and stuff like this. So they could pass through. They scored 2 goals. In a moment like this, obviously the game can be decided, but not tonight, because we could adjust in the half time and did that. Played again really good football and scored 2 wonderful goals, and so won the game, which everyone knew before already, but now probably definitely everybody knows. AC Milan came from pot 4 in this group. Very funny. So that's the quality in that group, and we have. So it is really good that we won this game tonight, because obviously you need each point in this group to get through.
He clearly enjoyed the fact that the fans were back in the stands, though, repeatedly punching the air after the final whistle. Real Madrid had a much more definitive night at Inter Milan, with substitute Rodrigo striking an 89th minute winner to bag a 1-0 victory. For Inter, it was a painful conclusion to a game they dominated for long stretches, but the hosts just couldn't find a way past Real's on-form goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois, who produced several crucial saves. Real are second in the group behind Moldovan's Sheriff Tiraspol, who stunned Shakhtar Donetsk with a 2-0 win on their tournament debut. Their next clash will be away to Madrid. After the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, attention is now swiftly turning to the Winter Olympics, which is just a few months away. Beijing will be the host at a time when China's relationship with the West is coming under increasing pressure. It is still unclear whether spectators will even be allowed into venues. Athletes, officials, and journalists will be asked to work in a bubble environment with limitations on movement and regular testing for coronavirus. At the same time, human rights groups have questioned the International Olympic Committee for allowing China to play host when it stands accused of alleged abuses against Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang province, as well as crackdowns on pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong. The Chinese government has denied any wrongdoing. On Thursday, it denounced a new Indo-Pacific security alliance between the United States, Britain, and Australia. It says such partnerships should not target third countries and warned of an intensifying arms race in the region. Some countries are reportedly considering boycotting the Winter Olympics. Just last month, Canada's Conservative Party leader Erin O'Toole said that Canadian citizens may be unsafe there. But China is getting support from Russia, with President Vladimir Putin saying he will be at the Games in a show of solidarity with Chinese President Xi Jinping. From the dog with the longest ears to the world's tallest teenager, Guinness World Records has revealed its latest record breakers for the 2022 edition of its popular book. The annual publication has been released on Thursday, featuring an array of records and feats from the brave to the bizarre. Meet Bethany Lodge, a long-time gymnast who holds the record for the fastest 100-meter forward rolls and the most backwards somersault burpees by a female.
And stop.
Then there's American Zion Clark, born without any legs, who now holds the Guinness World Record for the fastest 20 meters walk on hands. Letitia Key from Ivory Coast has set a new world record for the most skips over a person's own hair. We then got the world's shortest bodybuilder. Pratik Mohite stands just 102 centimeters tall. There's also the world's tallest bodybuilder, Man Mountain Olivia Richters, at a towering 2 meters and 18 centimeters tall. But he's still almost 9 centimeters shorter than the world's newest, tallest teenager, American Olivia Rue. But our favorite new record holder is undoubtedly Canine Lou. He has the longest ears ever recorded on a dog, a whopping 34 centimeters long. All right, let's take a look now at tomorrow's weather. Thank you for watching the Weekly Roundup here on the EAC News Channel. More from the EAC News team in the Daily Roundup, Monday nights at 8. I will see you then.